We're back with episode 2. Let's dig into it. Alright, season 2, episode 2. We're back into the swing of things, and of course, I'm your host V Deadline, and I'm joined by Brainstorm once again. How you doing today, mate?
Good. Lots to see us to get through as usual. We've actually had a lot of tournaments since last episode, but then we spent all of last episode talking about them. So now we have results and it's a closing of storylines and good things.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Last week was just so jam-packed full of tournaments, and now we get to see how they've come to fruition throughout the past sort of week things. So if you didn't see that episode, feel free to check it out and stay connected. But let's dig into things now. For the moment, we have Grayhound proceeding to the ESEA Global LAN Challenge here. Two incredibly close first maps and then somewhat of a more lackluster final there between Chiefs and Grayhound. Can you run through this a little bit for me, Brainstorm?
Well, the first two maps to give scores really quickly were 16-13s. The maps were Overpass picked by Grayhound, Cache for Chiefs, and then Nuke was the remainder. So Overpass and Cache both 16-13. Overpass was actually nearly a win for Chiefs. It was, well, it could have been. It was a lead for Grayhound, then Chiefs brought it back. But then I think it was erkaSt forced a 5-7 and got 4 kills on the B site, and then aced the next round, and then Grab bought an AWP and aced the round after that. So it was 14 out of 15 kills in 3 rounds that went to 2 different players. So ridiculous. And that pretty much won on the map. Chiefs grabbed back Cache, and then Nuke was unfortunately a stomping. I think it was like a 12-3 half or something like that. Let's see if I have the scores quickly.
Yeah, I have the scores displayed here anyways, but
I just want the half score on Nuke, but I can't find it. Yeah, okay, it was 12-3, and then Greyhound just won 16-3. So Chiefs are normally a good Nuke team, and normally a team that likes it, but they got wrecked. So the first 2 maps were really good. Last map, not so much, but good things for Greyhound, who booked themselves a spot at the ESEA Global Challenge LAN.
Yeah, that's exactly right. A LAN final, another international opportunity, which I was sort of touching on last week as well. And now that Greyhound have secured that, they're going to be able to go to Burbank, America, at an 8-team LAN, which is, sort of in the late September area. I mean, this is some pretty good stuff here for Greyhound. I mean, we haven't seen them overseas, not too much. I mean, I suppose you could consider WCA finals as an international tournament, but this really is the big stuff. We're on LAN here now in late September. I did want to also bring up something a little bit as to erkaSt and Destiny's performances in those matches. I mean, especially erkaSt. It was such an insane performance from him. And then, of course, Destiny sort of being like the best substitute, the best sellsword in Oceania you could ever get, playing his role well there. Just keeping up with the pace, not exactly playing outstandingly, but doing enough there to get Greyhound over the line.
Yeah, I mean, Destiny finished on -20 if you're looking at KD, which is not the only stat that matters, but he did well sitting in. I mean, he's someone who's played with this team for a long time. I can't remember who it was that tweeted about it, but I swear one of the Greyhound players is tweeting something about he's not just a sub, that they've played with him a lot, and
yeah, right.
he did his job well. But going back to touching on erkaSt, that massive performance from him, 87-46, plus 41 if you don't want to do the maths, 110 ADR, 1.67 in HLTV's rating 2.0, so massive stats. And you never want to put a team winning down to one person, but the 9 kills in 2 rounds on Overpass, that's sort of a sample of the ridiculousness that erkaSt can provide.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we'll get to see that come to fruition here at the LAN finals in late September, later on next month. But as for Greyhound, things aren't just done yet for them either. It's going to be some more roster changes for them after the leave of Moe, of course, which we covered last week. They've actually decided to go with Dexter. He will be filling in as their 5th from now until we know next. But yeah, so he's going to be finding a new home. I mean, we saw sort of a stint for him with a few different rosters. Can you run through a little bit with me, Brainstorm, about where he's been in the past and how he's ended up here at Greyhound?
Well, Dexter's been all over the place, really. Since he returned from North America when the Winter Fox lineup fell apart, he's been everywhere. He joined Tainted Minds for a bit and then left there. I think there was some issues with people they were picking up. So he was with Tainted Minds. Then he filled in with Funky Monkeys for a bit. I think he played on Sniper's anonymous ex-Athletico roster as well. But he's been all over the place and hasn't really sat in any one team for more than a few months, I think, since he's got back from North America. But now he's settling in as Greyhound's 5th, and to be permanent because, you want to see him have some stability and not just constantly going roster to roster to roster.
Yeah, exactly. And, having that solidified fifth really will give Greyhound a chance to say, okay, let's buckle down, go through some strategies, and really be on the grind as much as they can in the coming weeks. The only issue with that is, even going back, of course, to the global challenge, this may cause some complications for that LAN itself because, as people may know, ESEA are pretty strict on their roster changes, especially when it comes to those finals, which have been happening over the past 3 to 4 weeks for ESEA. So having Dexter come in this sort of last moment may cause a little bit of a complication for that LAN final, and we could be seeing a not so favourable situation for Greyhound, which of course is unfortunate, Brainstorm.
Yeah, very possibly. I mean, ESEA's roster locks, I can't remember when they were, but they were a while back. And normally, you can have more people on your roster. I mean, if you go and look at, I think it's Legacy's ESEA roster has like 12 people on it or something.
Yeah.
The amount of subs they've registered. So you can have a lot of people on your ESEA roster, but your players always have to come from that. And Dexter is not on their ESEA roster because he only just joined. So that means they might not be able to use him overseas. So that from memory, that leaves their options as Moe, Destiny, Magic, their coach.
Cozzy, I believe, as well.
One more I'm missing, but yeah, Cozzy, I think, is in there too. But I don't think they'll be able to use Dexter unless ESEA say, all right, fair enough. Because looking at their other options, Moe, I don't think they'll use because if he can't, make practice consistently due to family and work commitments, I doubt he can make a 2-day LAN in California. Destiny, I don't think travels, just personal reasons or whatever. I don't think Destiny goes overseas.
Yep.
And then Magic is their coach, who has played at a decent level before. I mean, he was on Lucid in CGI 6 months ago. And because he's been coaching them, he's still been around high-level CS. And then their other option, Cozzy, I mean, they've used him for a few LANs now, so maybe Cozzy could work, but I don't think it'll be Dexter, which is not great for Greyhound.
No, it's not. And, I mean, it's really hard to just suddenly pull another player aside and be like, hey, this is coming up in a couple of weeks. Can you make like a week available for it? So it's going to be pretty, they're going to be strapped for players for Greyhound, but only time will tell for that case. I really do hope that Dexter is able to compete with the roster, only in the sense that, it's a better representation of what Australia has to offer when it comes to international tournaments. So, we'll get to see how that pans out through the coming weeks. Of course, we will be covering it. Let's move on now, to some of the tournaments which have been completed since last week. Kings really taking it out on the Unikrn Australian Showdown, they're calling it. So it was a great series, of course, between Athletico and Kings, going down 2-1. Can you run down a little bit further here, Brainstorm, about what we saw that day?
Well, it was a bit of just looking at the Australian Showdown as a whole, it was a bit of an interesting tournament because we had Chiefs, I think it was Chiefs lost to Kings in the first round, then Chiefs beat Greyhound to knock them out, then lost to Athletico. And then the teams I mentioned, Greyhound lost to Athletico, then Chiefs to go out. So not expected results at all, really. You'd expect the final to be, I think everyone was expecting the final to be Chiefs-Kings, but Athletico showed up very, very strongly in their matchup against Chiefs and put themselves in that grand final. Now, you said it was close, and it was. It was Cage 16-9 in the way of Kings, Overpass 16-14 just being grabbed away by Athletico. That one could so easily have been the Kings 2-0 right there. And then the final map of Mirage went into double overtime, finishing up 22-19.
Yeah, really close stuff, especially on that final map. Overtime it's pretty much as close as you get. If you can hit 15-15, it brings every game to its absolute limits. And Kings were able to actually take that out just in the last moment, which, great performances from them, especially, considering all the competition in this tournament. I mean, we saw Greyhound, we saw Chiefs, we saw Ath, we saw Kings. It was, pretty much some of the best teams that we have in Australia. And it's great to see that Kings, a team that had a couple of question marks above their heads coming into, these playoff tournaments, really showing us what they're made out of. So that will result in them taking the lion's share of $10,000, cutting that prize money in half. $5,000 going to Kings. So once again, another great performance from them. We're also going to be moving on as well to yet another tournament in which they competed in. ESL AU&NZ finals, yet another victory for them. I believe they were playing Avant. Can you run down a little bit about how that best of 5 series went down?
They were, and that was a best of 5, which was pretty insane. We normally don't have best of 5s on LAN, but I'm very glad we did. Now, I wasn't casting that one, which meant I got to sit in the crowd and watch it, which was even more fun. So that was this weekend just gone. For those who aren't familiar with why that was a best of 5, it was supposed to be a 4-team LAN, but Anonymous, who were I think they were the second place team in season play, which was Sniper's team, they couldn't make it due to, I don't know if it was personal issues or if they're just because they've disbanded, but whatever. They couldn't be there, so therefore it fell to a 3-team LAN with Avant Gaming and Legacy playing a best of 3 for a spot in a best of 5 against Kings. Kings with their first seed just got a spot straight in that final. So Avant ended up beating Legacy 2-1. I had scores second. Here they are. So it was 16-5 on Cobble, which was very strong from Legacy, actually. So Cobblestone was Avant's pick. Legacy chose T-side, got 10 rounds, and then closed it out on CT flawlessly for 16-5. Mirage 16-11, and then Overpass 16-14. So it got closer as the series went on, but Avant grabbed Mirage, and Overpass put themselves against Kings. Now, coming into that, I think everyone that I talked to was saying, all right, Kings 3-0, you know, they've beaten Chiefs online, they've beaten Athletico online, and while online CS is not LAN CS, you'd still think that they're more than strong enough to get it done against Avant. But that almost wasn't the case. So to run through the scores very quickly, Inferno 19-16 in favor of Avant, Cage 16-3, stomping by Kings, Mirage 16-14 for Avant, Overpass 16-9 for Kings, and then Nuke 16-14 for Kings. So the standout map really is Cage 16-3. I mean, Kings just rolled over Avant on that one. But that final map, I mean, it was inches away from being 15-15 into overtime, and Kings only just managed to grab it. So it was a really close series and all. It's very, very entertaining to watch. You should go and watch the VOD if you didn't watch it live, because it was a great one. Very, very good CS played on LAN. But it's interesting that Kings, I think everyone was expecting them, as I said, to just come out 3-0 it, be incredibly strong. And while they certainly looked good in their later maps, Avant looked really good as well. It wasn't like it was two teams, you know, sort of scrapping at each other. Because, you know, occasionally if we have a close final, it's because both teams were making mistakes and sort of sloppy back and forth. But
Right.
It was actually really good CS played by both Avant and Kings in that final. But Kings grabbed it in the very final map in the dying rounds, and got themselves $4,000 for that one. So they've made $9,000 in a week.
Yeah, quite a lot of money. And even just going back to what you said about Avant, I mean, you know, that's what the best of 5 system is there for. It's to prove who is the better team. Really one of those long and you know, thorough systems to really work out who has the better map pool. And really, it really went to that wire, and I'm really impressed by how Avant stepped up to the plate and brought it to 5 maps. I mean, it was back and forth, 1 map for Avant, 1 map for Kings, you know, and went all the way even to 5th map, in which, you know, 16-14, I don't think you can get very much closer than that other than overtime. So, you know, if you were there at the ESL AU&NZ LAN finals, that was definitely a cracker, and you should definitely consider attending more if that's the case. But like you said, Kings, more money in their pocket. That's 9,000 over the past week. Pretty good stuff from them. We're going to be moving on a little bit more now to the CyberGamer side of things. They're actually hosting their CGP Qualifiers, which actually started yesterday and will be going on for the next few days as well. So that's actually going on right now. If you are watching this video shortly after its release, you probably will have a chance to watch some of the upper and lower bracket matches, but it is a double elim bracket, and you know, we've seen a couple of matches so far. Brainstorm, what did we see yesterday?
Well, what we saw really was a bunch of expected results, a whole lot of 2-0s. So we had, in no particular order, this is just the opening games, Avant 2-0 over Noxide, Riders Raccoons 2-0 over Corvidae, Kings 2-0 over Masterminds, really no surprise there, and BRB20 got a 2-0 over Legacy. So of all of those games, I think the only one that is really any surprise is BRB20 over Legacy. So this is Legacy using their full 5 as well. So with Iron and Waffy in, instead of at the LAN they had Panic and Apoc sitting in. So with their full 5, they got 2-0'd by BRB20, which is a few players from X Funky Monkeys and a few others. I can't remember the full roster, but it's like Lacour, Void, Blitz, Andy, and their 5th, whose name escapes me, but you know,
Yeah.
It's there somewhere. Anyway, so them getting into over Legacy is a bit different, and then of the other series, Kings expected to beat Masterminds, Avant expected to beat Avant, Noxide don't beat themselves. Raccoons or Riders Raccoons over Corvidae, again, it's not as much of an overdog matchup as Kings versus Masterminds, for example, but
Right.
I'd still take Raccoons to win that one. And that leaves us with the next series of games. So up next we have BRB20 versus Kings, which you'd think would be a Kings win. Riders versus Avant, which I think would be an Avant win, but that could be a little bit closer. And then in the lower bracket, facing elimination, Legacy versus Masterminds and Corvidae versus Noxide.
Yeah, so some pretty intense series over the night, which of course are going on as we speak. So definitely have a chance to look at that. But yeah, I mean, even to give a little bit more context to this qualifier as well, I believe there are 4 spots available here between 8 teams. So definitely lots of opportunities ahead for every team involved at the moment. So, you know, that's going to be a good chance to get in one of those high echelon leagues once again for those teams. So, you know, we'll see how that pans out throughout the day. But really, that's CGP qualifiers wrapped up at the moment. We're only going to be seeing more of that as the week progresses. But another interesting tournament to have a look at, ROG Masters, the ANZ Qualifiers as well. Yet another international opportunity here for Australia. It couldn't be better in 2017. It is thriving with competitions such as this. You could see that, you know, 3-week double elim bracket. It's pretty extensive too. I mean, in terms of the time frame and how that comes into things, you know, how long can we expect this tournament to be, Brainstorm?
Well, I mean, the 3-week double elim is exactly what you said. It's going to be 3 weeks long, but then there'll be semi-finals and grand finals played very early in September, and the winners of that's an open qualifier, by the way. So if you have a team, you have 5 dudes, you want to go play against, I don't know, Chiefs, Kings, whoever the heck signs up, go do it. You can do that. The link is on the thing. I assume that link will be somewhere. We can put that link somewhere.
Yeah, sure we can.
Anyway, you can go and play in the open qualifiers, but the winners of those, after you get through all of the double elim stuff and you get through the semi and the grand finals, the winner of that goes to the LAN, which will be, we don't know where yet, it's not been announced, but somewhere overseas. You get to go over with your buddies and play against the winners of the other qualifiers. So I'm not sure exactly where those regions are or how many teams is going to be, but there's 4 regions. So I don't know if it'll be a 4 or 8 team LAN, but either way, 4 regions. Everyone's doing those sorts of qualifiers, and you go to a LAN somewhere. So, bit of mystery still surrounding this. All the details aren't out, but that's what it is. The international finals will be in November.
Yeah, so pretty much as you said, pretty extensive stuff, like double elim bracket. I'm pretty sure they're even best of 3. So, you know, it couldn't be a better opportunity for the best team of this country. And yeah, I mean, LAN finals, there is a little bit of mystery towards it as to where it may be. I think last year it was in Asia, and we could probably expect the same thing there as well in November. But I mean, yeah, the open qualifiers, you know, it's open to everyone. I'm pretty sure we've had almost 20 teams register, which is definitely good to see. Hopefully we get to see more of, you know, some more battles between Chiefs, Grayhound, Kings, Athletico, even now like Avant and Righteous and all those better teams which, you know, have been running so much deeper now in the Australian scene. But I mean, that's pretty much it for our week on Crossfire. We've kept things nice and short. Short and sweet is like how I want it, so, or how I like it. And yeah, it's been great so far for Crossfire Week 7, Season 2, Episode 2. I want to thank you, Brainstorm, for joining me once again. And of course, join us next week. Stay connected. We have our Twitters in the description below. And join us next week for Episode 3.